Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NFL veteran and Super Bowl champion, Will Blackman.
Manning from the end zone. He throws, and a deflect away, and it is picked off by Will Blackman, the former Giant.
Tim Dwight watches it hit, bounces, picks it up at the 10, slips a defender, fumbles the football, it's up for grabs. It's covered in the end zone by Will Blackman for a Green Bay touchdown.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Ric Bucher.
Ric Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Blackman, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Ric Bucher. You can find me at Bleacher Report or on Twitter at Ric Bucher. He is NFL vet and Super Bowl champ Will Blackman. You can find him on Twitter at Will Blackman, and you can see him on the NFL Network. You can also follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. All right, Will. So
I'm a real veteran too. Like not just like 3 years, 3 games veteran. I'm a real vested.
You're not gonna
double-digit season.
You're not going to be one of those guys that the longer he's away from the game, the better he was, and everything becomes exponentially bigger the farther you get away from having played. You're not going to be one of those guys.
The plan is in 5 years I'm going to own a vineyard and I'm just going to be making wine. You're not going to hear from me ever again.
Very nice, very nice. Now, where are you planning to have this vineyard?
I don't know. It depends if I want to do a custom crush, which I may start that. I may start with custom crush and see how that goes, and then I don't know. We'll see what happens.
All right, so 5 years from now. So that means you will not be doing the podcast anymore 5 years from now. So listeners, pay attention because this is a limited supply. We're only going to get, at most, 5 years of Will.
It's gonna be Blackman and Wine Friends.
Blackman and Vintners, if I can say that.
Vintners. I just got my direct-to-consumer report today, too.
Yeah.
For wine. I'm all about it.
I got to hook you up with my man, Yao. He's got a tasting room up in Napa.
You don't know Yao.
Yao. I did a book with Yao. I went to China with Yao. I was on the back of the national Chinese bus, the Chinese national team bus, going through China with Yao. And trust me, having like a white American on the bus, you should have seen the dignitaries and the officials and the security when I followed Yao onto the bus. Now, the only reason I could is because it was Yao.
You wrote the book with him?
Yes. Yao.
So when are you going to help me write my book?
A Life in Two Worlds.
A Life in Two Worlds, yeah. I know that book.
That's my work with Yao. The hardest part was like negotiating the deal. It took like a year and a half, and then we had 6 months to write it.
So when are you going to write my book? I got asked yesterday, when am I going to write a book?
Let's talk. We'll get to that.
Surviving the NFL. That's what it's called.
Okay. And you did that successfully.
Yeah, I'm a survivor.
We'll talk. But in the meantime, we'll talk about the NFL Combine. Surviving the NFL Combine.
Surviving the NFL.
We are at the end of it. And so we talked a little bit about this in yesterday's podcast, but who stood out? Who jumped out at you, not just because they put up impressive combine numbers, but they showed you something along with the fact that you know who they are as a player, where you said, this guy might be special.
There was a cornerback, Amani Arawe from Penn State, 6'2", 205. One of the leaders on that defense, really athletic. And the biggest question that I got from every analyst, scout, executive, GM was, can he run? Because if he can't run, then, that's going to hurt him because he's a bigger corner. On film, he doesn't look that fast. Today, he threw down a 4.47, which shocked everybody. A legit 4.47. That was huge for him. Looked really, really good in his drills for being a taller corner. Very smooth, very athletic. That was a good one. I'm going to stick with another DB, Sean Bunting, out of Central Michigan. He's kind of flying under the radar because he went to Central Michigan, left early, but he's probably one of the only true man-to-man cornerbacks in this draft. A lot of guys play, press bail or bail quarters or, their butt to the sideline and shuffling. He actually plays real man-to-man. Great size, 6 foot, about 195, 200 pounds. Same thing with him. Can he run? Because he's longer. He threw down a 4.42 and had an excellent day too. So those two guys did a great job. Obviously, we can talk about Montez Sweat being 6'6", 260. He ran a 4.41. 6'6", 260. Okay. Wow. He ran faster than the two DBs I just talked about.
Wow.
That was impressive. Gosh. Yeah. That was cool, man.
This is going to sound like a crazy question. Why don't they have them run in pads and helmets?
No idea.
Wouldn't that be a better indicator? I mean, the numbers won't be as gaudy, presumably, but I feel as if that's what you deal with, especially with the helmet. I feel as if the sight and especially if you're doing like the agility stuff, I would think that's part of the skill set, is how comfortable you are with your vision being slightly different than it is when you're just in shorts and a shirt.
I mean, they might as well have one-on-ones while they're at it too. They do that in Canada. In Canada's combine,
yeah,
they have one-on-ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to test kind of as close to game situation as I could to see how guys react. Like the drill where they've got the react drill where you backpedal and then turn and go. To me, like I need to see you can see how easily certain guys turn their hips to like that. To me is an invaluable part of the estimation. That means far more to me than a guy who can just flat out run a 40. That to me is technical speed, because you're going to have to do that in the game of football. And if you can't, your straightaway speed is not going to count for a whole lot.
It's different in football too, because football there's a lot of like short, choppy running and stopping, short, choppy running and starting. Yeah. And the tough thing is these trainers have, 2 months maybe to turn these guys into a track athlete. Mm-hmm. And they tell them they can, and they're already stealing money. These trainers out here stealing money from these guys, sending DBs to the combine, and they out here running 4.8.
Yeah, something wrong with that.
So there's a lot wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm watching these drills, and I swear, I'm like, what have these guys been doing? Right. I mean, watching them backpedal, watching their movements, watching their coordination, it is just like unbelievable. Like these agents really sent these guys to these trainers and spent all this money, and they look like that. It was embarrassing.
And there is no regulation when it comes to that, right? It's just you get who you get. You don't have to be certified in any way to train a guy.
You don't have to be certified, no.
Right. What was your experience? Now you didn't train. You told us that in the last podcast. You didn't train.
Let me be more specific. I went somewhere. I went to Tom Shaw in Orlando. There was a bunch of us down there. Like I said, I roomed with Devin Hester and Jay Cutler was down there. Greg Jennings, bunch of guys.
So I think before you go on, like as soon as you say Devin Hester and you say Jay Cutler, like those are two guys I'm fascinated by. Probably more by Jay than Devin, but both of those guys, personality-wise. Now, this was at the very beginning. Were they who we saw them to be later then? When you look at them now and who they were through the course of their careers, were they already that when you roomed with them, when you went down to train for the draft?
Yeah, Devin didn't talk much then. Devin doesn't talk much now.
Yeah.
That's how he was.
Yeah.
And Jay was always cool. He was just cool Jay, man. Just always relaxed, not worried about anybody, doing his own thing. It was like good arrogance around us. It was good arrogance.
Okay.
Because he knew he could throw the ball damn near 100 yards.
Yeah. When I look at the way he plays and I look at the way he moves and the way he's able to kind of sling it and put it wherever, there's a lot there that is Aaron Rodgers-esque to me. Same kind of thing. Kind of it's a real fluid as an athlete.
But Aaron had way better. He's a better athlete. He had way better mechanics and a higher IQ. I think Jay, his arm was so good, that he tried to feel like he can get himself out of trouble just by.
Yeah,
I can do that. So I was down there for about a week.
Okay.
I think it was. I worked out with them. Dion was down there, so I got to train with him for a little bit. But that was only during our winter vacation. I was still in school. A lot of these guys either left school early or maybe they were in their 5th year and decided not to finish. And I was like, well, I'm going to go back to school and finish. I'm not going to just work out and then miss credits. I was this close to graduate. I'm going to just go finish. So that's kind of what happened. I didn't get the full program.
Okay. So what was your combine experience?
So here's the deal. My first 3 years at BC, I played corner. Made all Big East twice as a corner and returner. My senior year, I switched to receiver. I made all ACC as a receiver. I go to the Senior Bowl as a corner. I go to the Combine as a receiver. And so I'm there with all the wide receivers. Had a really, really good Combine. And then when I was all finished, Bill Parcells stood up and raised his hand and said something to somebody. And they brought me to the middle. Everyone was gone. I was on the field by myself. They said, guy got on the microphone, does anybody want to see Will do defensive back drill? Everybody raised their hand. So literally, I'm on the field by myself doing, right after I did the whole entire combine with the receivers, I'm doing all these defensive back drills by myself on the field. I still did very well, but it was just exhausting. And I'm just watching all these coaches, their eyes are on me only.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. Other than Marvin falling asleep on me.
What were you thinking when all that first transpired?
Oh, just show out. I mean, that was kind of my whole thing was how I got to where I am is I always took advantage of the opportunity. I always rose to the occasion wherever I was. Just, once again, I'm from Providence, Rhode Island. Everyone knows the smallest state. We don't produce a lot of players or athletes or whatever it is. So when I was 14, I went to the Boston College camp, and there was a bunch of kids there who were really good. I came out, on top. Same thing, went to the Nike camp. A lot of kids that are really good. I didn't care. Came out on top, went to college, didn't care. Went to the combine, same thing. I always rose to whatever the level was. I'm the youngest of 3. So maybe that's just my mentality because I am.
Sure.
Everywhere I went, I was always the youngest.
Did you have a preference when it came to would you have rather played wide receiver? I mean, I would think most guys would, right?
So no, right. So I'm walking around and I'm having a lot of informal meetings. And I remember this one, I think he's still there. I forget, I'm gonna find his name. But this one scout from Atlanta, he said, "Hey man, we like you at receiver, like you did." Yeah, I'm gonna find his damn name. Hold on. You don't need to edit this, Libby. This is. Anyhow, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
I met him in the hallway, and he was like, "Hey, we really like you at receiver, man." He said, if all goes well, he said, we will pick you up as a free agent receiver.
What?
As an undrafted free agent receiver.
What? But that would mean you didn't get drafted.
Oh, the insult. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But I looked at him. I was like, dude, are you serious right now?
If all goes well? If all goes well. All right, hold on a second. You got to find this guy's name.
Dude, I'm getting drafted, bro. Hold on.
Look for it right now.
Dude, I could not believe it if all goes well. I was like, bro, I'm getting drafted. I don't know about you, man. Kevin Winston. There he is. Vice President of Player Affairs now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you seen him since?
Probably not.
Wow. Okay.
I think he was with Atlanta then. He was with somebody. I remember I met that dude. He was like, yeah, if all goes well, we'll get you undrafted. I was like, boy, you better. After I just met with the Steelers who said, we got the 32nd pick. We're looking for a receiver for the 32nd pick.
Right.
They got Santonio Holmes. That worked out for them.
That worked out. That was okay. They did all right. They did all right. Hey, so there's 2 other things that I need to hit you with. Number one, Have you seen Chris Johnson's conspiracy theory about John Ross? Because we talked about this yesterday about his having the record for the 40.
Okay.
So Johnson had the record in 2008. He ran a 4.24, and Ross broke that 2 years ago with a 4.22. But Chris Johnson is saying, if you put the tape together, like he actually finishes, Chris does, ahead of Ross. And for whatever reason, it took him an abnormally long time for the NFL to officialize Ross's time when he broke the record.
Right.
And so Johnson is saying that it's not legit, that they, for whatever reason, they flipped it. They wanted John to have it.
I believe it.
You believe it?
I believe they wanted John to have it.
Well, why?
Because I don't know. I just feel like he was so close that they were like, "Fine, we're going to give it to him."
I know, but why should they care?
Because that's a big deal.
I mean, okay, it's a big deal for John Ross, but is it a big deal for the NFL? I mean, that Chris Johnson holds the record, or that John Ross didn't break it?
I don't know. There is one where he actually did pass Chris Johnson. So.
Oh, one tape?
Yeah.
That shows him faster?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe because Chris Johnson spent damn near $100,000 on that 4.24 stopwatch chain. He's like, come on, man. I can't wear this chain anymore.
No doubt. That's funny. The other thing I wanted to hit is Josh Rosen allegedly is on the market because they're going to go for your boy Kyler Murray.
It's not my boy.
All right, but in any event,
Rosen jersey sales are down.
Well, here's the thing. Well, like, what happened to Josh Rosen?
Nothing. He had nothing to work with.
I know, but now I'm hearing like he's not worth more than a third-round pick, and
listen,
like, how did he get devalued?
Buffalo got a third for Tyrod, didn't they?
That sounds right. I'd have to go back and double check that. But your point would be what?
Rosen's the first-round pick, top 10 pick.
I'm
right?
with you. And honestly, how do you?
Maybe the jury's out.
Okay, so but from what you saw of him last year, did you come off of him? Where were you at the beginning? Like, what did you think of Josh Rosen when he came out of school?
I mean, I thought he was okay. I had Baker and Darnold ahead of him for sure. After Baker and Darnold, that was it for me.
I'll be honest. I thought he was going to be the most successful QB, at least his first year.
Yeah, he can throw it. He's very, very talented in that regards, but I don't know his mind, man. It's so different. Especially now, like these quarterbacks have to come in and play now. Yeah, he got brought in and they had Sam Bradford.
For a hot minute.
I tell you what, though, that man is out there wheeling and dealing. Okay?
Talk about Jesse James.
Okay? that man is out there wheeling and dealing. Okay? He needs to be an agent when he's done. I'll tell you. But I don't know. I just needed to see more, especially now. My point was these young quarterbacks have to come in and play. They're playing right now. Can you save our franchise right now? Can you change our culture right now? You know?
I get all that. But, I mean, you look at what the Cardinals were with a first-year head coach that they obviously thought had jumped the shark before he got to midseason. I don't know what he was working with. They didn't have an offensive line. They didn't have a running game. What were you expecting? The fact that he survived, to me, and that they were competitive at times. I mean, yeah, they couldn't score.
I'll tell you right now, the Giants aren't picking a quarterback, and neither are the Cardinals.
Okay, so continue, because that is contrary to what a lot of people expect.
Right. So Jacksonville, if they get Foles, they still might take a quarterback.
Interesting. Now, are you saying all of this because of your insider knowledge?
This is not insight at all. I have not spoken to anyone. I just feel like there's so many rumors, so many things being said, smoke and mirrors, all what have you, to get people to talk. Because as soon as somebody says something, It's flying around all over the place. Just like the whole thing with Robert Kraft. Somebody said trafficking. It took off.
Yeah.
When as we know now, it's not trafficking.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, guys, this happens every year in football.
So you do not expect the Cardinals to trade Josh Rosen. Is that what you're saying?
No, they have other needs. Now, if they get out of number one, they better get a boatload of stuff with it.
Yeah. Would you rather have Kyler Murray than Josh Rosen?
It doesn't matter which quarterback. I need somebody to protect me so I don't get my head beat in.
Yeah. Well,
you have a quarterback right now. You have a quarterback that a lot of teams can use and who has a lot of ability. You have to build a team. You have to build a team.
Agree. We saw the dramatic transformation of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, because you build a team.
Yeah, because they used their first round pick.
They want you to look at Baker. Okay, they can keep comparing Baker. Once again, let's go through his history. Walked on to one school, got a job, got hurt, left. Went to another school, walked on to that school, won a starting job, won the Heisman, went to the Senior Bowl, lit up the Senior Bowl, went to the Combine, lit up the Combine, lit up the interviews. He did everything. Kyler Murray, we don't know right now.
Yeah.
We saw him play football. Yeah, he did well. He did awesome. Lit it up in college. But after that, we didn't even see anything.
You can't tell me that NFL GMs are not terrified of his 5'10" height.
Probably not, because right now, the style of offenses that people are using, the whole RPOs, they require a more athletic quarterback now. And I don't want to say they're afraid of his height, because the one thing about Kyler Murray you can say is that he is a winner, and he tore up every level he's played football on so far.
I understand all of that and agree with all of that. But as we get closer to the draft, I've seen this in every, I can't say for baseball because I've never really followed the baseball draft that closely. But for football and basketball, the measurables, like the ability to defend the pick, rises to the surface. Winning the press conference becomes, I think in some ways, that's where John Dorsey and going with Baker Mayfield was so gutsy. Because for all of that Baker showed as a result, you weren't winning the press conference. Sam Darnold, you're winning the press conference. That's what was.
Oh.
Yes.
No.
Because Sam Darnold was the anointed one.
You mean the beauty contest?
Yes. Well, I've seen plenty of teams that ultimately that's what they're looking at. It takes a GM who is confident in his own decisions. Chris Ballard, I'd say the same thing, demonstrated the same thing. He wasn't trying to win the contest. He wasn't trying to win the press conference, wasn't trying to win the beauty pageant. He was going to go based on what he thought his team needed the most. He didn't care, whether how the draft was graded after the fact. And I'm not saying that for everything that Kyler Murray is, taking him number one, whoo, that's gutsy. That is gutsy.
That says a lot, too. It's like, damn, bro. You draft a dude. Actually, that's kind of, I don't know, man.
Well, let's say the Cardinals have the number one pick. What does it say, the fact that they took Rosen, what was he, 10th? You take him, and then you turn around the next year. So you move off of him, and now you're gonna go even higher, and you're going to take Kyler Murray with the number one.
2 quarterbacks back-to-back?
Yeah.
It's silly. You draft a possible franchise quarterback, and you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
I really don't want him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want this guy.
It makes you wonder if they really know what they're doing.
And he better light it up.
Yeah. No,
he better light it up.
All right. We are recording this while when the Fox people wanted to know if I could come on today. They were like, Are you in town for the big Clippers-Lakers game? And I went, big Clippers-Lakers game? That's not a big game. Maybe in LA it is. But we are recording this while that game is ongoing. Clippers are winning at the moment. And we've talked about LeBron in the past. And you brought it up. Like, people are saying he should shut it down. This team's not going anywhere. Save himself. Basically, Do a Le'Veon Bell. Don't expend yourself right now. Save yourself for when it really matters. How do you feel about LeBron doing that? How do you feel about the idea that he should do it?
I don't like any of these business moves. I don't. Because guys will do whatever they can to get that salary, to play with that salary. You get paid to play.
Well, in the NFL, and this is the distinction, you have to play. To get your full boat, you have to play.
Right.
LeBron, and I've said it, like I'm so used to, I was raised on the Michael Jordan era and the idea of Michael Jordan.
I was raised on Michael Jordan era, and you weren't raised on Michael Jordan era. The heart of my basketball being is watching Michael Jordan. Okay.
And Kobe Bryant. That model was the ideal.
You never knew how much they made.
Yeah, you didn't think about it.
You didn't think about it.
And actually, it's one of the things that I always gave Kevin Garnett credit for, because he had a massive contract and
big ticket,
and he was dragging the Minnesota Timberwolves into the playoffs every year, but they couldn't get out of the first round. And he was making more than anybody. He was making an insane amount. Nobody ever talked about his money. You know why? Because he came out and he played his ass off every single night. You never questioned that he wasn't doing everything he could to earn that money. But this is the yin and the yang of LeBron for me, is that LeBron has consistently made business decisions. I mean, as far as how hard he's played over the course of a season, there are clearly times where he decides to put it into third gear.
Right.
And as a result, he's had longevity. I mean, the idea of a guy going to the finals 7 straight times is just unheard of. To play that many minutes, play seasons that long, back to back to back to back, is unheard of. And so he's benefited in ways. I mean, it's probably the biggest reason that people even put him in the conversation of greatest ever, or is he better than Michael?
Right.
And so it's hard for me to say, like, maybe he did the smart thing. Maybe he was, he was shrewd about it. Going to the wall and playing hard. I mean, it's hard for these words to come out of my mouth. It's hard to even make this argument, because I'm like, no, to my dying day, I will admire the way Jordan and Kobe did it. They came out to beat you every single night. They came out to prove that they were the best every single night. And no doubt it shortened their careers for doing so, because they played through injuries, they played with injuries, and LeBron has not done that.
Right.
I mean, do you admire that as a fellow professional athlete? Do you admire the business approach that LeBron had versus what Kobe and Michael did?
Here's my take. I definitely appreciate and I respect the business decision, because it shows, like, as an athlete, if you do your part, you can get some power. I love the fact that LeBron has power. That right there, I appreciate, because we are, as professional athletes, we are at the mercy of these owners. We are at the mercy of these teams. We are at the mercy of what it is. And the NBA knows, like LeBron made a comment last year last year he didn't win MVP. Or a year before, he made a comment saying, this league knows, they know what I do for them.
Right.
They know what I mean for this league. So
Sure.
That's fine. What was it? Was it Utah their last win? Is that who it was they beat?
I don't know. It was so long ago. It was
LeBron came. It was like 4 days ago. LeBron came through at the end and just went on a tear. He dropped like 33. I think it was against Utah. Oh no, it was against New Orleans.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Without Anthony Davis in the fourth quarter.
Without Anthony Davis, because he made that face that everyone was talking about.
Right, and he also made that the 3-pointer off of 1 foot in the corner.
Right, exactly.
And yet then he couldn't make 2 free throws.
Right. So my point is, like, LeBron went off towards the end of the game.
Right.
Had like unbelievable plays, and I posted the other day. I was like, LeBron he can do this whenever he wants.
Yep.
He can literally turn it on and be the most unstoppable basketball player in the entire world whenever he wants. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think that's why some people like myself, including myself, we get frustrated because our expectations for him are so high. Mm-hmm. We expect him to do this every single night. I said LeBron's a team player who can take over a game whenever he feels like it. And I think that's the frustrating part because those are business decisions too.
I expect him to try. See, that's
just go, yeah.
And you know what? It's not even that. I have less of a problem with LeBron than I do with the people who are LeBron fans, who don't want to acknowledge that he does what he does, that he takes off games or he takes off plays. He downshifts. They'll look at his numbers and just acknowledge that he's approaching this a completely different way. And I've said this. You talk about writing books. I mean, this to me is, I think, the most impactful thing that LeBron James has done was not on the floor. It was with the Summer of LeBron, with the decision that he grabbed the reins and he made the owners and NBA teams dance to his tune. And he opened the door to players controlling their destiny.
Thank God he didn't go to New York. He would have got lit up in New York.
He would have. I just heard recently, again, and I've heard so many iterations of this and various things about where he was going to go and how close he was going to someplace else. From everything I knew, it was that it was either Cleveland. As it turned out, it was either Cleveland or it was Miami. And I could not at the time. People were telling me he's going to Miami, and I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't picture him doing that. And I heard that he was on the plane going to Miami and, was already feeling the backlash, already getting a sense of, everybody in Cleveland vilifying him and hating him. And everybody, not just in Cleveland, even like the entire country turned on him. And that he said to somebody on the plane, what have I done? He was having second thoughts on the plane because of the reaction, that he was not anticipating the reaction was going to be as fierce as it was. I just heard the other day from someone who was trying to convince me that New York was very much in the picture. New York was, I'm loath to put it out there as to how forceful it was said to me. Said he was right there. I still have a hard time believing that. And it's all history at this point. My point bringing it up simply is, the decision that Kevin Durant made, ultimately Paul George was traded, but that Paul George basically convinced Indiana that they needed to move off of him. I mean, LeBron, really, the Summer of LeBron started all of that. And now it's just Anthony Davis. It's become second nature that great players are going to decide where they want to play. It wasn't that long ago that was unheard of. And I guess the question, do you ever see that happening in the NFL? I know we've kind of talked about this before. It's hard for me to imagine that the NFL will ever get there, that any player will ever have that kind of authority.
I mean, it's funny because I want to go back. I want to talk about AB. If AB's in a situation where, he wasn't out here doing all these interviews or, he said, she said wasn't going on. If they mutually was like, hey, they mutually parted ways and moved on from each other, AB could do that. If there wasn't all this circus going on, AB could do that.
Isn't he hurt himself by what he's doing right now?
I think he is hurting himself in terms of teams are probably asking themselves more questions, maybe going back to having more meetings.
Yeah.
Because once they found out that he wanted to be traded, they're like, okay, I definitely want to be a part of this.
Right.
But the fact that he's doing all these interviews and I get it. I love the fact that we have platforms we can use our voice for, and that he's taken full advantage of it, and he always has. And AB will brand AB. But the good thing about all AB doing what he does, he's still balling. It doesn't take away from his play.
Well, and this is the difficulty is in a period like this, you're not seeing him play. it's easy to forget who he is as a player, and all of the focus is on his relationships and him talking about, what was said by Tomlin or by Roethlisberger, and it's not a good look. And I like he did I think it was with Ron Darlington with ESPN. He did the special and went back to his neighborhood and then is sitting in his palatial estate. And I don't begrudge him any of those things, but it seemed like he was trying too hard to convince us of something that because he was trying so hard to convince me of something, it wasn't working. And suddenly, airing all this dirty laundry. If I'm a team, I'm like, do I really? Yeah, man, he can play, but what happens when we run into the same thing? Like if we have a disagreement, or am I inviting this into my house? It has to make you think twice, doesn't it?
No, they definitely are thinking twice. It's high risk, high reward. Because what if it really is AB and not Big Ben? We don't know that.
Yeah.
So you go to a new team, something happens, and you find out it was really AB. It wasn't Big Ben. The only play I can think of is maybe Dion could have done that. Darrell Revis. I think he actually did that one time where, he got paid by the Jets, and he got paid by Tampa, then he got paid by the Patriots. he was, and he got to the point where he could have went wherever he wanted to go, and he did.
Yeah, he was one of those guys who also, like physically, boy, man, when he got tapped on the shoulder, it went quick.
Right.
And I've seen a couple guys like that. Is that a positional thing, do you think? Or like what would you attribute a guy that good falling off that dramatically?
I think just his health just happened to him. I think for him, he dominated for a long time. He made tons of money and he got his ring. He tried to come back and he was like, hey, you know what? It's not for me. If I'm not going to be the number one corner, then, I'm going to shut it down. And that was kind of his thing. He said that pretty much he couldn't settle for mediocrity. So
I get that. Well, and you know what? We don't settle for that on this podcast either. So we're going to end it here because we've given you all the good stuff that we have. In my next podcast, I'm going to be joined by Ryan McDonough, former Suns GM. You may have seen a story that came out about the Suns owner and the dysfunction of the Phoenix Suns. He had a front row seat for that. He also has Sean McDonough is a brother, Terry McDonough, who is a VP with the Arizona Cardinals. What I would give for a invitation to the McDonough's Thanksgiving dinner and the inside shop talk that would go on there. I'm going to ask him obviously about that and find out what he's been doing since he left the Suns and is presumably either taking advantage of the fact that he's not in the grind or is prepping himself for potentially a return to the NBA. All of that in the next podcast. By the way, please, however you feel about the show, we usually say if you enjoy the show, screw that. If you just listen to the show and want to express your feelings, you have some feels about the show, drop us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And then
just drop a Bleacher Report feels on here.
You know what? I knew that was not going to get past you. I knew you were going to make a comment about that.
No, you didn't.
Every time I try to be the least bit current or hip in my vernacular, you
just
call
the fact
me
that you said
out.
hip because it's out of character. Don't do that.
Well, you know what? If I do it enough, then it's not out of character. Then it's kind of part of my character that
It's not part of your character.
God.
Nobody says feels.
That really did sound weird now that you said it.
By the way, Bleacher Report, they need to have me take over their NFL content. I'm just saying.
Okay. I'll make a call right after we write your book. All right. Anyway, screenshot the review, if you will, because if you do that and you send it to @BucherFriends, then we can do something for you. We will give you a prize if you're selected. All right. That's it. For Will, for myself, as always, more and more of you are listening. We really appreciate the support and the following, and we thank you.